Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's resume the proceedings. El garden. Estaba en the garden, into which they were later told they had no right of entry. They were not even allowed to attempt to grow things in tubs under black area, for reasons vague but peremptory put forward by the landlady, an octogenarian Mrs. Irving, who inhabited the 3 floors above them in a ranked silver fact amongst unnumbered cats, and who kept the garden as bright, wholesome, and well ordered as her living room was sparse and decomposing. She had enticed them, and like an old witch, Val said, by taking volubly to them in the garden about the quietness of the place, giving them each a small gold furry apricot from spaliered trees along a curving brick wall. The garden was long thin bowery with sunny spots of grass, surrounded by little box hedges, its air full of roses, swarthy damask, thick ivory floating pink, its borders restraining fantastic striped and spotted lilies, curling bronze and gold, bold and hot and rich, a forbidden bud. They did not know that in the beginning, as Mrs. Irving expatiated in her cracked and gracious voice on the high brick wall, which dated from Civil War, and either still, which had formed one boundary of General Fairfax lands, when Putney was a separate village, when Cromwell's trained bands assembled there, when the Putney debates on liberty of conscience were held in St. Mary's Church, on the bridge. Randolph Henry Ashe had written a poem purporting to be spoken by a digger in Putney. He had even come there to look at the river at low tide. It was in Ellen Ash's journal. They had brought a picnic of chicken and parsley pie. That fact and the conjunction of marvellous patron Fairfax with the existence of the walled garden of fruit and flowers were enough to tempt Roland and Val into garden flat with its prohibited views. In spring their window was lit from above by the yellow glow and thick row of bright daffodils. Tendrils of Virginia creeper crept down as far as the window frame, and progressed on the little circular circles across the glass at huge vegetable speed. Swaths of jasmine, loose from a prolifically flowering specimen on the edge of the house, occasionally fell over the railing with their sweet scent before Mrs. Irving, clothed in her gardening gear of Wellingtons, an apron over the seated and threadbare tweed suit in which she had first noticed them in, came and bound these back. Roland had once asked her if he could help in the garden, in exchange for the right to sit there sometimes. He had been told that he didn't know the first thing about it, that the young were all the same destructive and careless, that Mrs. Irving set a value of her privacy. You would think, said Val, that the cats would do the garden no good. That was before they found the patches of them on their own kitchen and bathroom ceilings, which when touched with a finger smelled unmistakably of cat piss. The cats, too, were under prohibition, confined to quarters. Roland thought they ought to look for somewhere else, but held back from proposing it because she was not the breadwinner and because he didn't want to do anything so decisive in terms of himself and Val. Val put before him grilled marinated lamb, ratatouille, and hot bread. He said, "Shall I get a bottle of wine?" And Val disagreeably and truthfully, "Ay, ay madre, you should. La luz. Now." um, a ver, me ha cortado el rollo, la batería. "You should have thought of that some time back. It won't go cold." They ate at the card table, which they unfolded and folded again after. "I made an amazing discovery today," he told. "Oh?" "I was in the London Library. They've got R. Ash Vico, his own copy. They keep it safe. I had brought up, and it was absolutely bursting at the seams with his own notes, all tucked in on the backs of bills and things. And I'm 90% sure no one had looked at them, ever, not since he put them there because all the edges were black and the lines coincided. How interesting, flatly. I might change the face of scholarship it could. They let me read them. They didn't take it away. I'm sure no one knew. It was all there. I expect they didn't." "I have to tell Blackadder. He'll want to see how important it is make sure Cropper hasn't been there. I expect he's well, yes." It was a bad mood. "I'm sorry, Val. I'm sorry to bore you. It doesn't look exciting. It does look exciting. That depends what turns on. We all have our little pleasures of different kinds, I suppose. I can write it up, an article, as how discovery make me a better job prospect. There aren't any jobs," she added, "and if there are, they go to Fergus Wolfe." He knew his Val. He had watched her honorably, tried to prevent her from adding that last remark. "If you really think what I do is so important, you do what turns you on," said Val. "Everyone does. If they are lucky, if there is anything that turns them on, you have this thing about this dead man, who had a thing about dead people. That's okay. But no, not everyone is very bothered about all that. I see some things from my menial vantage point. Last week I was in that ceramics export place. I found some photographs under the file in my boss desk. Things being done to little boys with stains and gags, and dirt. This week ever so efficiently filling records for this surgeon. I just happened to come across a 16-year-old who had his leg off last year. They are fitting him with an artificial one. It takes months. They are incredibly slow, and it's started up for certain now in his other leg. He doesn't know, but I know lots of things. None of them fit together, none of them make any sense. There was a man who went off to Amsterdam to buy some diamonds. I helped his secretary book his ticket. Reservé su ticket. First class, in his limousine, smooth and clockwork, and as he walking along Canal admiring the house fronts, some stabs him in the back, destroys a kidney, gangrene sets in, now he's dead. Just like that. Chaps like those use my menial services. Here today, gone tomorrow. Randolph Henry Ashe wrote long ago. Forgive me if you I don't care what he wrote in his Vico. Oh, well, such horrible things you never say. Oh, it is very interesting. My minion keyhole observations make no mistake. Just it doesn't make sense, and it leaves me nowhere. I suppose I envy you piecing together old Ash's world picture. Only where does that leave you, old mole? What's your world picture? And how you are ever going to afford to get us away from dripping cat piss and being on top of each other? Something has something something had upset her, Ron reasonably deduced, something that had caused her to use the phrase turn you on several times, which was uncharacteristic. Perhaps someone had grabbed her, or had not done so. No, that wasn't worthy. Anger and petulance did turn her on. He knew. He knew more than was quite good for him about Val. He went across and stroked the nape of her neck, and she sniffed and stiffened and then relaxed. After a bit, they moved over to the bed. He had not told her and could not tell her about his secret theft. Late that night he looked at the letters again in the bathroom. Dear Madam, since our extraordinary conversation, I have thought of nothing else. Dear Madam, since our pleasant and unexpected conversation, I have thought of little else. Urgent, unfinished, shocking. Roland had ever been much interested in Randolph Henry Ash's vanished body. He did not spend time visiting his house in Russell Street, or sitting where he had sat, on stone garden seats. That was Cropper's style. What Ron liked was his knowledge of movements of Ash's mind, stalked through the twists and turns of his syntax, suddenly sharp and clear in unexpected epithets. But these dead letters troubled him, physically even because they were only beginnings. He did not imagine Randolph Henry Ash, his pen moving rapidly across the paper, but he did have the thought of the pads of the long dead fingers which had helped unfold these half-covered sheets before preserving them in the book, instead of jettisoning them. Who? He must try to find it out. To find out. Por fin, the end of the chapter 2, second chapter ending. Goodbye. Hasta luego.